And what I'm looking at here is you have the dogwood. It's nice flowering, great tree. You have this larger sugar pine. It's in great shape. Yep. It's pretty much the only thing that you have space for here is this sugar pine. Okay. So my idea behind that, we can probably keep a few extra of the cedar for bank stability, but for the most part, they're all competing for a limited amount of stuff here. So they're really not going to succeed. So I would want to keep the dogwood, keep the sugar pine, get rid of these cedar that are coming out of your driveway here. And then sticking with that same one I had marked, we're going to keep this one. Keep that one there. And then all these other cedar on this side are going to be removed. Because they're just competing, growing underneath your deck, trying to get light, and they're just not going to work out. So we'll hang on to this one. And because I didn't bring the green flagging today, the pink flagging is going to be the same as the green. So it means do not cut for the guys. Here, and these cedar are never going to reach maturity where they are, so I'm going to have all them out of here. They're just not going to make it. And what you planted here, you're irrigating it, all that fun stuff, we're going to keep it. It's going to be good to go. So that's yours to keep there. We're not going to mess with it. Get rid of pretty much all the cedar in here. Yeah, because this one is probably the most established, but it's going to be growing right up underneath their porch, underneath that tree, and it's a large tree. It's not going to make it.
And removing all those won't affect the stability.
It's going to have its influence. The best thing you can do is not rake this down to bare mineral soil and keep some type of a depth, not to exceed 2 inches of needles and leaves. And then that's going to maintain your soil moisture as well as keeping it from rushing down the hill on a heavy rainfall. And this one here growing right up underneath your chimney. It's a nice tree, but you can see where it has what it's got to deal with. When it gets there, it's going to be way more expensive to deal with in 10 years. When it's 8 inches diameter and 30 feet tall. So this one's going to have to go as well. Similar situation with this tree. Spacing's good from tree to tree, more or less, but you're right up underneath the structure, and it's going to be growing up underneath your porch and underneath the drip line of this larger pine. So this one I would also encourage for removal as well, just because it's less expensive to deal with it when it's 3 inches diameter. And the more mature it gets, it's just going to be more expensive. And like we talked about the soil erosion, these trees don't make good ground cover because they're just going to grow up to probably all be about 5 to 10 feet tall, and they're all going to die, and you're going to have a significant fire hazard on your hand.
You're talking about these small trees?
Yeah, all these incense cedar here, because they all volunteer, they mass produce. It's kind of what they do.
Okay. Are those going to come back eventually? I mean, not the same trees, of course. But whatever is causing them to appear now, won't they just appear again?
Absolutely. Everything we're doing here requires annual maintenance. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to come out here every year to do this. The idea would be, as a property owner, you take it upon yourself to see what we've done and try to maintain it. We're just trying to take the brunt of the work out of the way so that you can have an example of what right looks like, and then it gives you something to maintain a little easier. Well, everything underneath your porch, all these trees got to go. There's a couple over here. This one close to the porch, knowing where it's going to grow, it's going to be a problem in the future. We identified that one to be kept. So we can trade a little bit, but for the most part, 90% of these small trees got to go. Yeah. Do you want to keep this one though?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, firewood underneath your porch right up against your home is not ideal either. Which is something that we would recommend. If you wanted to keep that, we could stack it nicer, and then maybe at some point you get a tarp to cover it. But it needs to be a certain distance away from the home. But obviously when you need it, it's a long walk.
The reason I'm asking about that is I know when the rainy season came by last time, not this year, the year before that, the water was running through here, and it affected this right here. So
undermining your footing?
Down, right there at the footing. So removing all those little trees in here, and I can see your point on that certainly. Would that make the water flow even more, or would it have no effect anyway?
Well, you're on a steep slope here, and you're in the mountains, so that slopes have a tendency to move downslope. So my recommendation, if you had any type of a ground cover,
Okay.
And like we talked about, not
Right.
the large trees, because
Right.
they're not the best option.
Yeah.
Is having something over there to mitigate that. You're going to have this erosion problem regardless.
Okay.
But you're dealing with an erosion problem and a fire hazard problem, so it's
Right.
kind of you got to balance the two a little bit.
Right. But taking that.
So everything I see in here, everything with green flagging, we're going to keep.
Okay.
You're the exception. The boundary here doesn't go far that way, does it? Do you know about how far over it goes?
Yeah, it goes
this way?
about to the.
Oh, I like
the
what
other
you
side of
planted
these-
there.
Yeah,
oh,
I
that's
put
cool.
those in.
Oh, good job.
So that's pretty much right where it is. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
just on the other side of those.
Okay, and these guys here, we can maybe get away with keeping one of these trees, maybe this guy,
Okay.
and then I don't want to cut any of the dogwood. The dogwood's
yeah,
good. It's
yeah.
not a big carrier of fire. It's
Okay.
it's actually desirable.
All right.
So we can keep this guy, get rid of all the other cedar, obviously get rid of that dead oak that's right here,
Oh yeah.
and then that dogwood being on the neighbor's property, you're going to enjoy the beauty of that just as
Cool.
they will. So we're going to
Yeah.
keep that one,
All right.
obviously.
Yeah.
We were keeping this guy.
Okay.
We talked about keeping that one underneath the drip line there.
Okay.
It's not really going to succeed in that spot, but we can keep it if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd like.
Okay. So we talked about here, we're keeping that fir.
Uh-huh.
We're keeping this guy, obviously, he's big. We identified this guy here
Yeah.
to be kept.
Okay.
It's obviously underneath this tree, but
Yeah.
we can give and take a little bit here.
All right.
And you can see all the trees that are identified. But what you're looking at here, there's
Yeah.
going to be pretty much all these small trees
Okay.
are going to be gone.
All right.
Yeah. And then you're just going to be left with the more established, the healthy trees.
Yeah.
And then they're going to do better as a result. All these
Okay.
guys are just soaking up all the nutrients. Their
Okay.
root systems are way more shallow than these larger trees. So any moisture that percolates in is getting intercepted by these smaller trees, shallower
Okay.
root systems.
I got you.
So we're keeping a couple of these here. The more established ones, and get rid of the suckers that are at the base. And then those are going to, over time, improve.
Okay.
We're just going to limb up that guy there. That's probably one of the best trees you have down here.
Yeah.
We're going to keep that guy.
Yeah.
This deer brush I would suggest removing. This shrub here. It's not doing anybody any good there. We're going to hang on to that black oak there. You can see it, we've already flagged it.
Yeah.
So that
right.
one's staying.
Okay.
These two cedar in here are staying.
Okay. Great.
With that idea, everything that's not flagged is going to be gone.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
And the boundary doesn't go too much further this way that I can see.
Yeah.
Somewhere right in here. We're going to hang on to that oak. We're not messing any dogwood, so that's going to stay.
Okay. Okay.
And this is close to the boundary, so I don't want to. I'm going to be making
Yeah.
sure that they don't cut anything over here.
All right.
We're going to hang on to that guy.
Yeah.
Well identified.
Okay.
This sucker here is growing right up underneath these other trees. We're going to have to get this one out.
Ooh.
Do you want to hang on to that one?
Let's see. Which is this one here?
This is the black oak.
Oh, okay. That one's staying, right?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that's where you're getting most of your shade from this time of year.
Yeah. Well, if I can keep that one, that'd be great too. I mean,
Okay.
Again, I don't want to get in the way of the process here.
Sure. Well, we
Undermine
are keeping the
anything.
one that's further away from the oak
Yeah.
over here, and this one's already growing right up into the oak tree. So it's gonna be a problem in the future. We can keep them both if you'd like, though.
I'd like.
Okay.
I would like that. Thanks.
And because of the steep slope here, we
Yeah.
can get away with keeping a little bit more for that reason, for bank
yeah,
stability.
I was gonna say.
Well, when it gets down to this actual embankment down here,
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything with that.
Okay.
I think it's just due to the fact we're probably not going to be able to get something planted there before it becomes an erosion problem.
Okay.
So
Oh, yeah,
the
sure.
best fix there is to keep as much as possible
Okay.
on the really steep stuff.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, like we're dealing with here, it's really overcrowded. It's closer to the structure.
Right.
We got to thin it out a little bit,
Okay. Okay.
and then we can poke our way back out there, and then we can look up from the bottom and we can talk about that.
Okay. So this with the leaves and the pine needles we have right here, this is acceptable.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can see like where you can see the bare mineral soil
Yeah.
right there.
Right.
And the requirements for the county ordinance is not to be deeper than 2 inches.
Okay.
And that varies. You're dealing with a litter layer, you're dealing with a duff layer,
Right.
different stages of decomposition, that kind of a thing.
Okay.
But that whole layer is not to exceed 2 inches, and you're still in compliance.
Great.
And having something there is intercepting all those raindrops that are going to otherwise transport soil down the slope.
Okay.
And you don't want that.
Yep.
Because you have a slope here, we can't do anything about that.
Right. Okay.
So, like I said, I don't really want to mess with this slope at all.
Okay.
I think we're just gonna not touch anything here,
Okay.
just because you're talking, it's over 100%, it's steep. This stuff probably is an issue every year coming down here,
Right.
that material. So
Yeah,
we're just going to
yeah.
keep it right where it is.
Okay.
We're just going to limb up that one tree there, get rid of that bush,
Okay.
and then everything else stays.
Okay. Well, you mark those.
And those are to be kept.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But they'll know that these are to be kept.
Yeah,
maybe
I'm going to
not
make
marked.
sure that they're aware of that
Okay.
we're not messing with this slope at all.
All right, great.
Yeah. So that's really all we're doing is eliminating those ladder fuels. So if a ground fire does get started on the road down here, it stays on the ground. It doesn't climb up into those larger trees and get into your home.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Okay. Well,
And we can walk up this side and we can look at what you planted and
Okay.
make some recommendations, because there is a few things on that side of the house that I wanted to talk about.
all right.
So looking up here, I mean, a lot of these things, obviously, you could just pull them out. That would be the recommendation for anything like this. Large tree species, pop it up underneath your
Oh,
parking deck here.
yeah.
That's not going to be good.
Okay.
So there's really not a whole lot to do in here.
Yeah.
And you have it down to pretty much bare mineral soil already, so I would be better to have a little bit of stuff accumulate over the years and maintain that.
All right.
Recommend that for your own sanity, because it's growing into the foundation here of this retaining wall, and it's a large tree, so if it does what it's supposed to do, the root systems are going to do what they're supposed to do, and it's going to cause damage to this
Okay.
over time. And it's growing right up underneath your communication line already.
Oh, yeah.
So in about 2 years, it's going to be touching it. And like I said, the earlier you deal with these large tree species, the more affordable it is. And if you were to keep, I mean, you're seeing here, there's not just one tree.
Right.
There's 3 trees established,
Yeah.
and they're all the same species,
Yeah.
and either one of them or all of them could destroy a retaining wall here.
Okay.
So that's why I encourage getting those out of there.
Yeah. No, I see your point. Makes sense.
And it probably, I don't know, you can probably see okay around it as you're pulling out of your driveway, but it's
Yeah,
kind
it
of
is.
block your view a little bit.
Yeah.
And the dogwood's going to be there, and as we know that they're deciduous, so
true.
that's only going to be a problem during the summer, and that's a good problem to have because they like to flower and they're nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're okay with that?
I guess so. I mean, I see your point on all of that.
Yeah.
I just try to keep,
Keep it green.
Yeah, I
Sure.
do, and it's been here for a while. It's obviously growing.
Sure. Well, if you see like we talked about the competition,
Yeah.
there's a limited amount of stuff available for what's growing here.
Right.
So if there's more root systems tapping into that,
Yeah.
it's
No, you're right.
you're going to see an effect over the years if you maintain this to where you're having just your larger, more established trees. They're going to do better as a result. So you're going to make them put all your resources into those fewer trees as
Right.
opposed to trying to keep all these babies alive, and they're all going to be adolescent teenagers and they're all going to start dying off on us. We don't want that.
Okay.
And we're really here to do a good thing for you and your neighbors.
I know that. It's just that things are here growing, and I hate to take away anything that's trying to stay alive.
Sure.
But I see they have a limited future
Yeah.
anyway, so that makes sense. And I would hate to lose that foundation. And if that tree's just going to keep on going, it's going to be a problem. You're right.
Yeah.